Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. So let me make sure I got this straight. Dana White is caught on video beating his wife in public, and he's back at work at the UFC. And the white media is not making any sort of scandal about that. Nobody's trying to put him on Front Street or humiliate him publicly on camera about it. They just instead say, well, he says that if he were to be suspended from UFC, it would hurt the company, and I guess that's just it. No accountability. What can you do? And of course, Dana White's boss and buddy Ari Emanuel is being allowed to remain in hiding. There's public outrage and outrage from within UFC. There's outrage in political circles like the California Women's Caucus, but what there isn't is punishment. So that's Dana White. Alec Baldwin shot a woman to death, and the DA says that she's not going to have him arrested, even though he's been charged with 2 counts of manslaughter. I mean, where do they do that at? So clearly the fix is in out there. They don't want to damage Baldwin's reputation by making him take a mugshot. This is sweeping it under the rug, so you can expect some sweetheart plea deal to be offered to him in the not-too-distant future. It's already been offered to the assistant director on the movie where the homicide took place. And this latest plea deal will go perfectly with all of the other plea deals that he's been given in New York, no matter how violent his behavior has been. So you can beat a woman just a couple of weeks ago and kill a woman 18 months ago and be walking the streets free. Meanwhile, if you're black, someone can crawl out of the dirt with no evidence whatsoever, claim you did something to them 33 years ago, and it's treated as front page news. So much for if it bleeds, it leads, huh? Mike Tyson has spent the last 30 years living down that rape accusation against him that put him in prison. Mike Tyson has already shown that the man can keep his nose clean, so people ought to be asking real questions about the validity of that conviction. But the white media and the white authorities that be chose their target with care. After all, when you got the man's own wife saying, well, he's been abusing me, as far as everyone's concerned, okay, she's giving cover for whatever it is we choose to do to him next. And by the way, I think it bears noting that Mike Tyson has had a much more vibrant career in entertainment than his ex-wife and accuser, Robin Givens. These laws, like the one in New York that basically eliminates the statute of limitations when it comes to accusing people of rape or sexual assault, obviously that's not something that's supposed to apply to everyone because it's not being applied to everyone. This law that they have in New York is we will have a perpetual line of Negroes accused of sexual whatever, as long as they're prominent, because that's what this is really about. These laws extending the number of years that accusers can try to have someone prosecuted were passed by California and New York, which is where the vast majority of black celebrities live. And while you only get one Harvey Weinstein being targeted under these laws, so far in the last 30 days we've seen both Bill Cosby and now Mike Tyson being sued in New York by women using that law, basically declaring no statute of limitations. And of course, it's absolutely no coincidence that it's Cosby and Tyson. Both of them were falsely accused of rape. They were both made to do time for crimes they didn't commit, and both of them are black. So now the attacks are coming and coming and coming and still coming. Bill Cosby is a free man. He proved that the accusations against him were false, and he's not likely to ever go back to prison again, so this is about making sure that people are reminded of the smears against him. Oh, Cosby's talking about going back on a comedy tour again. White media saying, oh, we're not going to let you rehabilitate your reputation. We're not going to let you rehabilitate your image. We're going to make sure that we tell people, no matter what you see from Cosby, oh, he's dirty, oh, he's a rapist, because we said so. They've got at least one accusation, by the way, of these new 5 accusers, who, by the way, are not really new at all. But one of these accusers has a claim that she said happened back in 1969. That's what she actually said. Cosby did something to me back in 1969. Most of the people in the sound of my voice probably weren't even born then. But any rumor will do, I suppose. By the way, the women who are suing Cosby this time around were represented previously by Gloria Allred. I'm sure you didn't see that one coming. Gee, the coincidences just seem to keep on piling up. As is the fact that you don't see these kinds of persistent smear campaigns and witch trials being carried out against anyone else other than black men. Michael Jackson continually harassed and dragged into court repeatedly, even though he proved all the accusations false. O.J. Simpson made the target of the trial of the century and was promptly acquitted. Then he was tried in civil court. then hounded by the white media for several years over any rumor that they thought we're going to gin up another prosecution of him. Then finally, they put charges against him in Las Vegas because he was trying to retrieve his own property. And of course, because this was a show trial, make sure that you got basically an all-white female jury because this was not trying him a second time for the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, right? Then you got Jussie Smollett, the other trial of the century, who the city of Chicago wasted millions of taxpayer dollars and manpower in pursuit of a prosecution over an alleged false police report. Meanwhile, they completely and thoroughly ignore all of the white racists who falsely accuse black men of something. It's also sickening because it's so blatantly false. Do you see Les Moonves being pursued in New York or anywhere else over the accusations of sexual misconduct women made against him? They changed the law in New York, so it's a free-for-all, but the former head of CBS, who had numerous women accuse him of sexual misconduct, and worse, nobody's leading the charge against him. CBS is based in New York, might I add. How convenient. And neither Bill O'Reilly nor Matt Lauer have become the targets of never-ending civil suits either. Paul Haggis was found liable for rape, but you don't see a flood of other accusers coming after him. No, the floodgates never seem to open if the accused isn't black. This stuff is astroturf. The authorities are certainly involved in this, as are certain movers and shakers in the white media, like, say, perhaps Ari Emanuel. This sudden out-of-the-blue mess like this certainly fits his M.O. I put that little weasel in the same category as Harvey Levin. Wouldn't it be something, though, if we did find out that it was exactly people like Ari Emanuel running around trying to get people to go after Tyson and Cosby? Because as long as we're talking about unsubstantiated rumors from 1990 and 1969, we're not talking about Dana White anymore, or looking at Ari Emanuel and holding him accountable either. A whole lot of personal problems can be made to vanish, so long as you've got a big enough scapegoat or a big enough distraction. This is like a stage-managed production, with everybody knowing exactly what part it is that they're supposed to play in this little drama. Everybody already knows that if you accuse a black man of doing something, the white media will immediately pile on and treat him and report on him as guilty. They'll use the language of, well, this guy's guilty, but can the DA go ahead and seal the deal and put him away? On the other hand, with non-black men like Kevin Spacey, the white media simply reports on how difficult it will be to convict him. Oh, the evidence, you're sure a jury will believe it? It happened a long time ago. There's a lack of evidence. There's also a lack of interest, namely the white media's interest. That's what they tried to say about Dana White beating his wife in public. Well, there's not really much interest in this. Hey, come on, the white media wouldn't lie to you, would they? They've conditioned the society to believe that accusing a non-black man is an uphill legal battle. So people, after a while, they take the hint and decide not to even try it. Meanwhile, everyone understands that if you accuse a black man, the white media won't be talking about how hard the case will be to prove then. The narrative will be about how many years the accused black man's going to get. And they'll report on the so-called evidence against him, even if the case is weaker than silly putty. So the public and lawyers get the message, make an accusation against a black man, and the white media will gladly act as the PR team for the plaintiff. Last month, Harvey Weinstein was found guilty of rape for the second time in Los Angeles instead of New York, but it was treated as a one-and-done story, nothing to see here. Because this isn't about justice, it's about making sure that a black face is the one that people see the most when talking about sexual assaults. If Kevin Spacey is fending off accusations in Britain, then make sure to show some black man who's being accused of something in the U.S., even if it's only rumors, even if it's from 50-plus years ago. Just repeat it anyway. It's not about facts, it's about publicity meant to forward a particular racial narrative. Find a high-profile black man, accuse him of sexual misconduct, rinse, repeat. I'll bet Lifetime's already working on a Surviving Mike Tyson series, and Kamal Dumbbell is being given his marching orders from Showtime right now to make another hit piece calling itself a documentary, this time against Tyson, and I'm sure that little pustule will be claiming toxic masculinity is the problem here. When Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, the big question was, will she flip on all the other rich and powerful perverts who Epstein was taking out to his pedophile island? What big wigs and powerful men does Maxwell have dirt on that she would be willing to make public just to get a lighter sentence? What accusers would be willing to step forward now to point the finger at all those rich and powerful white men who Epstein was bumping elbows with? Well, the white media's response to that question was, well, those accusations wouldn't get very far. The Maxwell conviction is the end of the road. You just need to accept that. Hell, they even had the reporter in Florida who broke the Epstein story on CNN, and she was saying that, well, going after Epstein's other pals, that's not really feasible, because at this point the memories of the accusers are surely to be called into question because of stuff from 10 years ago. CNN actually aired the reporter saying that this is the woman who wrote the story that broke the Epstein scandal, and here she is saying, oh, going after all these other men, that's just a hill too high, just a bridge too far. But on the other hand, if you're talking about somebody making an accusation from 1969, the battle cry is suddenly believe all women, and of course she remembers what happened. His face is etched into her mind. Look, whether you like Mike Tyson or not is irrelevant. I've had to say this over and over again. This ain't about Bill Cosby. This ain't about R. Kelly, etc. This is not about them, not them directly. They're being used as proxies for the black community to forward an anti-black narrative. This is about the white media's persistent drip-drop of bad stories about black men and the really convenient timing of these accusations. But of course, I could very well be wrong. Maybe people's memories do get sharper over time. And maybe you remember things from 50 years ago better than something from last week too, huh? Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Nikki, Rudina Harris, Timothy Hall, Jerlene Harris, and Imani Metendaji. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.